When I look at the people that are winning, and when I say winning, I think the biggest issue we have right now is how we define winning. I think way too many people are defining winning based on how many followers somebody has, how much money somebody has, what things somebody has. And for me, I've realized as I'm going through this process, it's unbelievable how much to me the happiness factors into winning. Like, what am I? Are you happy? Like, by many standards, there's so many different people that may be winning or losing based on your singular judgment, but the reality is you have no idea what's really happening within their mindset and what's happening in their home. You're looking at the outside facade, and I think as this world continues to grow, we've become incredibly adept at making us look a certain way in our social media versus what's really happening in our head. And that's something we've always done. We've always bought homes that were too big, cars that were too much, clothes that was too much, because we are unbelievably interested in other people's opinions about us versus our own opinions about ourselves. And so when I think about why the first film we ever made was called Clouds and Dirt, it's because it's my basic thesis in life. And definitely the reason I'm successful in business has a lot to do with Clouds and Dirt, because it's about the macro and the micro. It's about the strategy, the why. To me, what really makes me contemporary right now and why this is a growing audience and where my business success is coming from two reasons. One, I'm been right about what the world was going to do, and I mapped strategies that played out, that worked. My macro thesis was right. It was very simple. It wasn't super complicated. 10 years ago, I decided that this device was way more important than most people thought it was, and I decided whoever won on this device, whoever controlled the home screen, whether that was email or text messaging or social networks, whoever won that, the people that won on top of that, 3 layers: the internet, the platforms on top of the internet, and then the people that know how to use the platforms on top of the internet were going to be the winners. The internet was going to win. The platforms, Facebook, YouTube, they were going to win. And then the people that knew how to execute next, the vloggers, the personalities, and the startups that knew how to make content in it. It was a very simple thesis. I executed against it. But that's only one part of it. The other part of my macro was not just my strategy in business, it was that I figured myself out at a very young age that the game itself was what I loved. And I'll be very frank, it saddens me that so many people in the audience's KPI is figuring out a way to max out money so that they can then deploy that money to buy things that think will make them happy. The reason that makes me sad is I've just seen it not work out time and time again. People think it's the money that makes them happy or the thing they can buy with the money, and the reality is it just doesn't play out. And so for me, the macro was not only was I right about where the attention of every person was going to end up and then execute within it, I knew that building it and eating shit was going to make me happy. I recognize that eating the dirt is the thing that makes me most happy, which means I'll never be upset. Everybody's in a rush. How many people here, raise your hands, have heard me talk about patience? Raise your hands. Great. So I've had a very interesting epiphany, to be very frank with you. I didn't realize that I loved patience so much and push it so much because I loved the process. Of course I love patience. I never want to stop. As a matter of fact, on the way here, I was saying to somebody, I used the word, I was like, I'm just foreplaying my business career because I never want it to end. I always want to work. I have no interest in ever retiring. I don't want to buy a fucking island. I don't want to sell VaynerMedia, right? Even my business goals of buying the jets, the second I buy them, it's going to be fucking hard to win a fucking Super Bowl, right? I love the process. I want the process. You need to figure out what your process is. Because to be successful, you have to understand what's so amazing about the internet. Why does every 15 to 20-year-old want to be an influencer? Because they can. Let me just say it really quickly. Why does every 15 to 20-year-old want to be an influencer? Because they can. You can make $50,000 a year. You can make $100,000 a year just being you, having brands subsidize your life or selling t-shirts or whatever it may be. The reason most teenagers in the world want to be a KOL or an influencer is because it's practical. Here's the problem with it. Everybody can do it. It's a supply and demand issue. Everybody can start an Instagram and YouTube account tomorrow, which by virtue means everybody can, which means you're competing with everybody, which means you have to be good. This is a very important point because the reality is to actually work hard enough to be good enough versus the next person, you're gonna have to put in so many hours in the game, and the only way to put in the hours to differentiate is to put in the hours. We look for so many angles. I am fascinated by how many people are looking for the angle. How many people are like, Gary, I hear all your stuff, but like whether they meet me in a conference like this in Q&A or on the street or in a business meeting, they're like, yeah, but just give me the one thing. My friends, there's no one thing. They're like, but the hack. Like, do you really think there's some magical fucking hashtag out there that's gonna blow up your fucking account? Like, do you really think that's how it works? I'm just completely fascinated by everybody's lack of patience and lack of process. And so really my macro, I'm starting, and listen, I'm really excited because I promise you this, and you'll see it in my content for the next 5 to 7 years, I will reference this trip and this speech because I'm starting to realize, calm down. You still might fuck it up, so let's relax. We still have 35 minutes and 13 seconds, let's relax. But I realize that I'm starting to put the pieces together that the macro is not just having the right business strategy. Let me give you a macro. Voice is gonna win. Alexa and Google and Apple are gonna build voice devices. Everybody in this room over the next 10 years is gonna gravitate towards voice devices. Apps are gonna be built on top of the voice devices, and the next Spotify and the next SoundCloud and the next YouTube and the next Facebook, the next $1 trillion companies will be voice apps. It will be a huge industry. Everybody here should go home and read 10 hours a fucking week about voice apps, voice devices. Everybody here should go buy an Alexa. You should absolutely have one. Work with your fucking Siri that fucking sucks today, but gets better. Voice will win. I'm giving you the macro strategy. Voice will win. Put in the bank. D-Rock's filming somewhere. It's done. There's plenty of cameras here. Voice will win. That's done. It's gonna happen. Now what? Every day I get emails from people like, oh, Gary, this sucks. Like, I had the idea for Uber before it happened. Who gives a fuck about your idea? Do you know why nobody talks about copywriting and patents anymore like they used to 15 years ago? Because they don't mean shit. The game is about execution. The reason most of you don't execute is because other people's opinions about you matter more than your own about yourself. No shit, you can't work and put out as much content. You're worried about other people's opinions. You literally stopped posting more content on social media because one random account named DutyFace47 said that you were ugly or stupid, and that stopped you. My friends, you have to get your macro right. You have to know where the world's going or where you think it's going. You have to know what you can do about it. Cool, so now I just said the voice is gonna win. What just went through all 2,000 people's heads? Did you say, and take a step back, I'm gonna become an investor and I'm gonna invest in the next Facebook or Twitter on voice? Is that your move? Did you take a step back and say, you know what? I've been thinking about doing a podcast. Let me make a voice app along with that podcast and try to win there. Did you take a step back and say you're gonna start advertising on voice apps when they first come out to sell your t-shirts or your course or your real estate? Like what did you decide when you heard voice was gonna win? But most of all, you've got to be in a good enough place to execute and win. And you've got to understand it's about pattern recognition. For me, whether it was baseball cards or lemonade stands or the liquor store, my career has been basically the same. If I was standing here in 1996 when I launched WineLibrary.com, I would tell you that the internet was going to win. For all the youngsters in here, a lot of people thought the internet was a fad, that it wasn't going to be a big thing. Next, it was going to be email. Then it was going to be Google AdWords. Then it was going to be YouTube. Then it was going to be social media. It's all been the same thing. It will always be the same thing. Before I was in the business world, it was television, cable. Before that, network television. Before that, radio. Before that, newspapers. This is not very complicated. This is very simple. Communication is how people make decisions. You want to sell something? You need somebody's attention. Then you tell them. You tell them through words, you tell them through audio, you tell them through video. My friends, this is fucking simple. This is fucking simple ass shit. Don't get it confused. This is simple as fuck. The phone has won. If you do not have content on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you don't exist. Do you understand?